Captain James Miller drummed his fingers on the command console of the UESS Mercy, the lead vessel in Earth's humanitarian fleet. 3 months ago, a distress signal had reached Earth from the distant Proxima system. The Ardelian colony there was suffering from a devastating blight that was destroying their food supply and had already claimed thousands of lives. Earth had responded immediately. Despite being relative newcomers to the Galactic Alliance, humans had quickly established a reputation for their medical expertise and disaster response capabilities. The Mercy led 5 massive ships carrying food, medicine, agricultural equipment, and a team of Earth's best scientists. "Captain, we're approaching the outer boundary of the Proxima system," Lieutenant Ana Rodriguez reported from the navigation station. "ETA to Ardell Prime is 6 hours. Miller nodded. "Send the standard approach notification to Ardelian Control and to Alliance Headquarters. Let them know we're arriving ahead of schedule." Rodriguez tapped her console. "Message sent, sir." Miller stood and stretched. 6 months in space had left him eager to complete their mission. "I'll be in my quarters. Alert me when we receive confirmation." 2 hours later, the emergency klaxon jarred Miller from his rest. He bolted to the bridge, arriving just as the ship rocked violently. "Report," he barked. "Sir, 3 vessels appeared from behind the system's 5th planet," Rodriguez answered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "They're flying no recognized colors, and they opened fire without warning or communication. Status of the convoy? The Phoenix and Hippocrates have sustained damage. Their defensive shields are holding but weakening. The Nightingale reports their engine was hit, but they're maintaining position." Another blast rocked the Mercy. "Sir," Communications Officer Tom Walker called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the lead attacking vessel." "On screen," Miller ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Miller recognized the species immediately: Khazari. Technically Alliance members, but their commitment had always been questionable at best. "Human vessels," the Khazari commander spoke in halting Alliance standard. "You trespass and claim territory. Your supplies are now forfeit. Power down and prepare to be boarded." Miller's jaw tightened. "This is a humanitarian mission sanctioned by the Galactic Alliance. We are responding to a distress call from the Ardelian colony. Power down your weapons and withdraw immediately." The Khazari laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "The Ardelians no longer control this system. Their distress is not our concern, nor should it be yours. You have 1 minute to comply, or we will destroy your vessels." The transmission cut off. Miller turned to his tactical officer. "Options?" Lieutenant Dave Brown shook his head. "Our ships are equipped with defensive shields only, sir. We have no weapons beyond point defense systems designed to destroy small debris. They outgun us significantly." Miller made his decision quickly. "Send an emergency transmission to Earth Command. Include all sensor data on the attacking vessels. Then order all ships to execute escape pattern Omega." Rodriguez looked up, shock evident on her face. "Sir, that would mean abandoning the mission." "The mission is already compromised, Lieutenant. If we stay, we lose the ships and the supplies. If we run, we might save some of our people." As the transmission was sent, another volley from the Khazari ships struck the Phoenix. The vessel's shields collapsed and the hull ruptured catastrophically. 2,000 crew members, doctors, scientists, and engineers died in an instant. "Signal the remaining ships," Miller said grimly. "Emergency jump coordinates. Now." As the Mercy prepared to jump, Miller watched the Phoenix's remains scatter across space, burning debris that had once been humanity's finest. His last thought before the jump engines engaged was that Earth would not let this attack go unanswered. He was right. Admiral Helen Grant stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her face grim as the holographic display showed the final moments of the Phoenix. The room was silent as they watched the ship disintegrate under Khazari fire. "That's all we received before the Mercy executed an emergency jump," Grant concluded. "Of the 5 ships in the humanitarian convoy, only 3 escaped. The Phoenix was destroyed with all hands. The Hippocrates was disabled and presumably captured. President Thomas Rivera of the United Earth government leaned forward. And we're certain this was an unprovoked attack on clearly marked humanitarian vessels? Yes, Mr. President. All ships were broadcasting Alliance humanitarian codes. There was no warning before the attack commenced. Captain Miller followed protocol perfectly. Council member Marcus Jones, representing the Pacific Confederation, stood. What do we know about these Khazari? Why would they attack a relief mission? Grant gestured and a new image appeared, star charts showing territorial boundaries. The Khazari are technically members of the Alliance, but their commitment has always been tenuous. They joined primarily for trade benefits. Intelligence suggests they've been expanding aggressively in several sectors, mostly through intimidation of weaker species. And the Ardelians? Asked Councillor Maria Petrov. A peaceful agricultural species. Their colony in the Proxima system was established with full Alliance approval 3 decades ago. The Khazari have no legitimate claim to that system. Rivera's expression hardened. What are our options, Admiral? Sir, I've prepared 3 potential responses for the Council's consideration. Grant outlined the first option. Diplomatic channels, working through the Alliance to demand reparations and the return of the captured vessel. The second, economic sanctions against the Khazari, cutting them off from Earth's considerable trade networks. And the third? Rivera prompted. A military response, Grant said evenly. We demonstrate that attacks on humanitarian missions will be met with overwhelming force. The Council chamber erupted in debate. Earth had not engaged in interstellar warfare since joining the Alliance 15 years ago. Many argued for patience, for working through established channels. Director Robert Hughes of Intelligence Services raised his hand for attention. There's something else the Council should consider. The timing of this attack was too perfect. Someone knew exactly when our convoy would arrive. You're suggesting a leak? Petrov asked. Or worse, that elements within the Alliance itself might be complicit. The Khazari aren't technologically advanced enough to have detected our ships at that range without prior knowledge. Rivera stood, silencing the room. Admiral Grant, how quickly could we deploy a response force? The Second Fleet is currently positioned near Alpha Centauri for exercises. They could reach Proxima in 8 days. And the Khazari military capability? Moderate. They rely on numerical superiority rather than technological advancement. The Second Fleet would outclass them significantly. Rivera looked around the room, meeting each council member's eyes. Humanity joined the Galactic Alliance in good faith. We've contributed medical knowledge, scientific discoveries, and humanitarian aid across 3 sectors. And now our people have been killed for trying to help others. He paused, then continued with steel in his voice. If we allow this to go unanswered, we signal to the galaxy that humans and human lives are expendable. I will not send that message. The vote was taken. The decision was made. Admiral Grant, Rivera said formally, you are hereby authorized to deploy the Second Fleet to the Proxima system. Your primary objectives are to secure the return of the Hippocrates and any survivors, to establish a humanitarian corridor to Ardal Prime, and to neutralize any Khazari military assets that threaten these objectives. Grant saluted. Yes, Mr. President. As the council adjourned, Rivera stopped Grant with a hand on her shoulder. Helen, make sure they understand exactly what they've done. Humanity has avoided war for decades, but we haven't forgotten how to fight. Grant nodded grimly. They'll understand, sir. That I promise you. Admiral Helen Grant stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her face grim as the holographic display showed the final moments of the Phoenix. The room was silent as they watched the ship disintegrate, under Khazari fire. That's all we received before the Mercy executed an emergency jump, Grant concluded. Of the 5 ships in the humanitarian convoy, only 3 escaped. The Phoenix was destroyed with all hands. The Hippocrates was disabled and presumably captured. President Thomas Rivera of the United Earth government leaned forward. And we're certain this was an unprovoked attack on clearly marked humanitarian vessels? Yes, Mr. President. All ships were broadcasting Alliance humanitarian codes. There was no warning before the attack commenced. Captain Miller followed protocol perfectly. Council member Marcus Jones, representing the Pacific Confederation, stood. What do we know about these Khazari? Why would they attack a relief mission? Grant gestured and a new image appeared, star charts showing territorial boundaries. The Khazari are technically members of the Alliance, but their commitment has always been tenuous. They joined primarily for trade benefits. Intelligence suggests they've been expanding aggressively in several sectors, mostly through intimidation of weaker species. And the Ardelians? Asked Councillor Maria Petrov. A peaceful, agricultural species. Their colony in the Proxima system was established with full Alliance approval 3 decades ago. The Khazari have no legitimate claim to that system. Rivera's expression hardened. What are our options, Admiral? Sir, I've prepared 3 potential responses for the Council's consideration. Grant outlined the first option. Diplomatic channels, working through the Alliance to demand reparations and the return of the captured vessel. The second, economic sanctions against the Khazari, cutting them off from Earth's considerable trade networks. And the third, Rivera prompted. A military response, Grant said evenly. We demonstrate that attacks on humanitarian missions will be met with overwhelming force. The Council chamber erupted in debate. Earth had not engaged in interstellar warfare since joining the Alliance 15 years ago. Many argued for patience, for working through established channels. Director Robert Hughes of Intelligence Services raised his hand for attention. There's something else the Council should consider. The timing of this attack was too perfect. Someone knew exactly when our convoy would arrive. You're suggesting a leak? Petrov asked. Or worse, that elements within the Alliance itself might be complicit. The Khazari aren't technologically advanced enough to have detected our ships at that range without prior knowledge. Rivera stood, silencing the room. Admiral Grant, how quickly could we deploy a response force? The Second Fleet is currently positioned near Alpha Centauri for exercises. They could reach Proxima in 8 days. And the Khazari military capability? Moderate. They rely on numerical superiority rather than technological advancement. The Second Fleet would outclass them significantly. Rivera looked around the room, meeting each council member's eyes. Humanity joined the Galactic Alliance in good faith. We've contributed medical knowledge, scientific discoveries, and humanitarian aid across 3 sectors. And now our people have been killed for trying to help others. He paused, then continued with steel in his voice. If we allow this to go unanswered, we signal to the galaxy that humans and human lives are expendable. I will not send that message. The vote was taken. The decision was made. Admiral Grant, Rivera said formally, you are hereby authorized to deploy the Second Fleet to the Proxima system. Your primary objectives are to secure the return of the Hippocrates and any survivors, to establish a humanitarian corridor to Ardal Prime, and to neutralize any Khazari military assets that threaten these objectives. Grant saluted. Yes, Mr. President. As the council adjourned, Rivera stopped Grant with a hand on her shoulder. Helen, make sure they understand exactly what they've done. Humanity has avoided war for decades, but we haven't forgotten how to fight. Grant nodded grimly. They'll understand, sir. That I promise you. Fleet Admiral Jack Thompson stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, Earth's most advanced warship and the flagship of the Second Fleet. Around him, 23 vessels of varying classes moved in perfect formation as they prepared to exit hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system. All ships report ready, Admiral, Commander Lisa Foster announced from her tactical station. Combat systems online. Shields at maximum. Thompson nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 62, he was the most experienced officer in Earth's Navy, a veteran of the Mars conflict and the Jupiter rebellion before humanity had reached the stars. He had hoped never to lead ships into battle again, but here they were. Communications, transmit to all vessels. Execute Operation Safeguard on my mark. He paused, then added quietly. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace, in a carefully choreographed maneuver, surrounding the main Khazari staging area near Proxima's 4th planet. Before the Khazari could react, 4 Earth cruisers had positioned themselves between the Khazari fleet and their orbital base. "Sir, we've identified 37 Khazari vessels," Foster reported, "mostly light cruisers and frigates. Intelligence was correct, they're outgunned." "And the Hippocrates?" Thompson asked. "Sensors detect a human vessel signature at their main orbital facility. Life signs are present." Thompson straightened his uniform. "Open a channel to their command." The view screen activated, showing the same blue-skinned, four-eyed Khazari commander who had threatened the humanitarian convoy. The alien's expression registered shock before quickly masking it. "This is Fleet Admiral Jack Thompson of the United Earth Navy. You have illegally seized an Earth vessel and attacked a humanitarian mission registered with the Galactic Alliance. You will immediately surrender the UES Hippocrates and all surviving crew, withdraw your forces from the Proxima system, and prepare to pay reparations for your unprovoked aggression." The Khazari commander's upper eyes narrowed. "You intrude in Khazari space, human. Your ships were trespassing. We claimed this system by right of—" Thompson cut him off. "This system is recognized by the Alliance as Ardelian territory. You have no claim here. You have 30 minutes to begin compliance or we will take action." He signaled for the transmission to end. "Sir," Foster said, "Khazari vessels are powering weapons systems and moving to engagement positions." Thompson had expected nothing less. "Deploy scout drones to monitor their formations. Order the Artemis Group to maintain position guarding the approach to Ardel Prime. All other vessels prepare for defensive action." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Thompson. Many of you have never seen combat. That changes today. Remember your training, remember why we're here. These attackers thought humanity would be an easy target, that we would respond with words while they took what they wanted through force." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They were wrong. We came to this galaxy in peace, but we will not allow our people to be killed without consequence. Hold your fire until they commit. Then show them exactly what humanity is capable of." As the 30-minute deadline approached, the Khazari fleet formed an attack pattern, clearly intending to overwhelm Earth's position through superior numbers. "They're not going to comply, sir," Foster observed. "No," Thompson agreed. "They're not." At exactly 29 minutes, the Khazari opened fire. Their energy weapons streaked across space toward the Earth fleet. "All ships, evasive action. Return fire. Targeting weapons and propulsion systems only," Thompson ordered calmly. "Deploy countermeasures." What followed demonstrated why humanity, despite its relative youth among galactic powers, commanded respect. The Earth fleet moved, with a coordination that confounded the Khazari targeting systems, while their own weapons struck with surgical precision. Within 10 minutes, 7 Khazari ships were disabled, their weapons and engines destroyed while their life support remained intact. Not a single Earth vessel had sustained significant damage. "Sir," Foster reported with a hint of surprise, "the Khazari flagship is breaking formation. They're attempting to flee the system." Thompson's expression hardened. "Not with our people still captive. Target their engines only. I want that ship intact." The Dauntless's main cannon fired once. The Khazari flagship shuddered to a halt in space, its propulsion systems obliterated. "Open a channel," Thompson ordered. When the Khazari commander appeared this time, the alien's 4 eyes were wide, with what Thompson recognized as fear. "Your demonstration has failed," Thompson said flatly. "You have 10 hours to surrender the Hippocrates and all Earth personnel. After that, we will take them back by force." The message was clear. Earth had responded. Major Emma West led her team of 20 Marines through the abandoned corridors of the Khazari orbital station. After the Earth fleet's demonstration of power, most of the Khazari had evacuated to their planetary base, leaving only a skeleton crew to guard the captured Hippocrates and its surviving personnel. "Motion sensors showing minimal activity ahead," Sergeant Paul Reed whispered over the tactical comm. "Estimate 5 to 7 hostiles guarding the detention block." West raised her, hand signaling the team to halt. "Control, this is Rescue 1. We're approaching the detention area. Any update on life signs?" Admiral Thompson's voice came through clearly. "Sensors confirm 37 human life signatures in that section. Proceed with caution, Major. Priority is the safe extraction of our people. Copy that, West replied. She turned to her team. Non-lethal tactics unless they escalate. Remember, the Khazari are technically Alliance members, even if they're acting like pirates. The Marines nodded. Each carried advanced stun weaponry alongside their standard armaments. Earth military doctrine emphasized proportional response, a philosophy that had sometimes confused alien species who mistook restraint for weakness. Reed, Jensen, take point. Barnes, cover our 6. Let's move. They advanced silently toward the detention block. The Khazari station was vast, designed for a much larger crew than was currently present. Their intelligence indicated that most of the captured humans were being held in a central area, converted from cargo storage. As they rounded the final corner, they encountered their first resistance. 3 Khazari guards who barely had time to register surprise before the Marines' stun. Weapons dropped them unconsciously to the floor. Secure them, West ordered, and 2 Marines quickly bound the unconscious aliens. The detention block door was heavily shielded, but Earth technology had advanced rapidly since contact with galactic civilization. Specialist Alex Morgan deployed a small device that attached to the door's control mechanism. Override in progress, Morgan reported. Their security is pretty basic, actually. 30 seconds. The door slid open, revealing a large chamber where dozens of humans in the distinctive blue uniforms of the Hippocrates crew sat or lay on makeshift bedding. 4 Khazari guards reached for weapons but froze when they saw the Marines' weapons, trained on them. Drop your weapons, West commanded. You're already defeated. Don't add to your problems. After a moment's hesitation, the Khazari complied. West stepped forward, addressing the human captives. I'm Major Emma West, United Earth, Navy. We're here to bring you home. A woman in a captain's uniform stood shakily. Captain Laura Williams, UES Hippocrates. You're a sight for sore eyes, Major. Are there any other crew members being held elsewhere? West asked as her team began helping the weakest prisoners to their feet. Williams nodded grimly. They separated. Our chief engineer and 5 of his staff. They've been forcing them to explain our engine technology. 2 decks up, Section A7. West relayed this information to the fleet. Control, we need a second extraction team to A7. 6 more of our people there. Already dispatching Team 2, Thompson responded. Get our people out, Major. As the Marines organized the rescued crew for evacuation, Captain Williams approached West again. Major, there's something else you should know. The Khazari, they weren't working alone. Before they attacked us, I overheard their commander speaking with someone, not Khazari. They mentioned coordinates being provided by our friends in the Council. West's expression darkened. You're saying someone in the Alliance Council gave them our flight path? That's what it sounded like, Williams confirmed. They were set up to ambush us from the beginning. West nodded. We'll get this information to intelligence. Right now, let's focus on getting everyone to safety. The evacuation proceeded smoothly. Within an hour, all 43 survivors from the Hippocrates were safely aboard Earth vessels receiving medical attention. As West's shuttle docked with the Dauntless, she couldn't help but feel that this rescue was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The betrayal went deeper than just the Khazari. Someone powerful wanted to undermine Earth's standing in the galaxy. Someone who had drastically underestimated humanity's response to an attack on its people. That mistake would prove costly. Dr. Alan Turner studied the data scrolling across his terminal aboard the UES Einstein, the science vessel that had joined the Second Fleet after the initial confrontation. As Earth's foremost xenobiologist, he had been summoned when Admiral Thompson's team discovered something unusual on the Khazari station. This can't be right, he muttered, running the analysis again. Commander Frank Russo, the Einstein's captain, looked over his shoulder. What am I looking at, Doctor? Turner pointed to a molecular structure rotating on the screen. This sample came from the Ardelian colony's agricultural storage. The blight that was destroying their crops wasn't natural, it was engineered, specifically designed to target their primary food source. You're saying someone deliberately created a famine? Russo asked, his voice hardening. Not just someone with advanced bioengineering capabilities, Turner explained. This is beyond Khazari technology. They don't have the scientific infrastructure for this level of molecular manipulation. Further investigation of the Khazari base had yielded more disturbing evidence. Captain Williams's suspicion about Alliance involvement was proving correct. The communications logs recovered from the Khazari command center showed regular transmissions to and from a hidden relay near the Alliance Council headquarters. Admiral Thompson and his senior staff gathered in the Dauntless's secure briefing room as Turner presented his findings. President Rivera attended via quantum entanglement communication, his hologram seated at the head of the table. So the attack on our humanitarian convoy was just one part of a larger operation, Thompson summarized. First, engineer a famine on the Ardelian colony, then intercept the relief mission Earth would inevitably send. But why? Asked Commander Foster. What would anyone gain from this? Intelligence Director Hughes, who had also joined the meeting remotely, cleared his throat. We believe this may be an attempt to discredit Earth within the Alliance. Since joining, we've established ourselves as leaders in humanitarian and medical response. Several older Alliance members have seen their influence wane as a result. President Rivera's hologram leaned forward. Do we have specific suspects? The communications were routed through multiple relays, Hughes replied. But we've narrowed it down to 3 possibilities. The Vorn hegemony, the Tyrellian consortium, or elements within the Maldorian Empire. All 3 were founding members of the Alliance, species that had been spacefaring for centuries before humanity achieved its first faster-than-light travel. What about the Ardelians? Captain Williams asked. Having recovered sufficiently from her ordeal, she had joined the briefing. How many have died because of this manufactured crisis? Dr. Turner's expression was grim. Based on the progression of the engineered blight in the colony's population, I estimate between 15 to 20,000 deaths so far. Without immediate assistance, the rest of the colony, about 80,000 individuals, will face starvation within weeks. Rivera's face hardened with resolve. Admiral Thompson, I'm authorizing the expansion of Operation Safeguard. Your new objectives are as follows. First, secure the Ardelian colony and deliver the emergency supplies we originally intended to provide. Second, maintain control of the Proxima system until we can establish who was behind this attack. Third, gather all evidence possible regarding Alliance involvement. Thompson nodded. And the Khazari, sir? They're tools in this, not the masterminds, Rivera replied. But they made their choice when they attacked our ships. Secure their surrender and prepare to hand them over to Alliance authorities, along with evidence of who was pulling their strings. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Turner approached the Admiral. Sir, there's one more thing. I've developed a counter-agent for the engineered blight. If we can distribute it quickly enough, we might be able to save not only the Ardelians but also their agricultural base. Thompson clapped the scientist on the shoulder. Get it ready, Doctor. The Mercy and our remaining humanitarian vessels will deploy to the colony immediately. As the fleet prepared for this new phase of operations, one thing became clear. What had begun as a simple response to an attack had unveiled a far-reaching conspiracy. Earth's place in the galactic community would never be the same. The wolves who had thought to prey on what they perceived as a naive newcomer were about to discover just how formidable humanity could be when its core values were threatened. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Alliance fell silent as the Earth delegation entered. Admiral Thompson, now in full dress uniform adorned with his service medals, led the group. Behind him walked Captain Williams, Dr. Turner, and Major West, all chosen not just for their roles in the Proxima operation, but as symbols of humanity's resolve. High Arbiter Kelson, a tall, avian being with iridescent feathers, raised his ceremonial staff. This emergency session of the Alliance Council is now in session. We are gathered to address the serious allegations brought by the United Earth government regarding events in the Proxima system. From their elevated seats arranged in a semicircle, representatives of over 200 spacefaring civilizations watched intently. Many had been skeptical when the relatively young human species had applied for membership 15 years ago. Some had opposed their admission altogether. None could ignore them now. "Admiral Thompson, you may present Earth's case," Kelson intoned. Thompson stepped to the central podium. "Honored representatives, I come before you not just as a military officer, but as a witness to conspiracy, biological warfare, and the attempted mass murder of an entire colony." Over the next hour, he methodically presented the evidence: the engineered nature of the Ardelian blight, the unprovoked attack on a clearly marked humanitarian convoy, the communication logs linking the Khazari to elements within the Alliance power structure. "The data is conclusive," Dr. Turner added during his testimony. "The pathogen targeting Ardelian crops required advanced knowledge of their molecular biology, knowledge that exists in only a handful of Alliance databases, including the Central Scientific Repository." When Captain Williams spoke of her crew's capture and the conversations she had overheard, the chamber erupted in murmurs. The Khazari representative, newly appointed after their previous government's collapse following Earth's intervention, rose to speak. "We acknowledge our role in these shameful events. The previous regime was approached by agents claiming to represent Alliance security interests. They were told that Earth was expanding aggressively, using humanitarian missions as cover for territorial acquisition. This revelation caused another stir among the representatives." "And you believed this?" Thompson asked incredulously. "We were provided with falsified intelligence reports that appeared to come from Alliance security," the Khazari admitted. "We have surrendered all such documentation to your investigators." Major West then presented the most damning evidence: financial transactions traced from Khazari military accounts back to shell corporations linked to members of the Tyrellian Consortium. The Tyrellian representative, a corpulent being with glistening gray skin, surged to his feet. "These accusations are outrageous. The Consortium has been a pillar of the Alliance since its founding. We will not be slandered by these newcomers." High Arbiter Kelson raised his staff again. "Representative Moruz, you will have your opportunity to respond. For now, let Earth's delegation complete their presentation." Thompson nodded gratefully to the Arbiter before continuing. "We do not accuse the entire Tyrellian people or government. Our evidence points to specific individuals within your diplomatic and intelligence services who orchestrated this plot." He displayed holographic images of 3 Tyrellians. "These individuals accessed the biological database containing Ardelian genetic information. They authorized the payments to Khazari accounts, and they were present at meetings where the ambush of our convoy was discussed." The chamber fell silent as the weight of evidence became undeniable. "What does Earth demand as restitution?" Kelson asked finally. President Rivera's hologram appeared beside Thompson. "The United Earth government requests the following. First, immediate Alliance humanitarian aid to the Ardelian colony. Second, a full investigation into the individuals we've identified and their collaborators. Third, reforms to Alliance security protocols to prevent such conspiracies in the future." He paused, then added firmly. "And fourth, recognition that attacks on humanitarian missions, regardless of which member conducts them, constitute crimes against the foundational principles of this Alliance." The Council deliberated for 3 days. When their decision came, it was unambiguous. The named Tyrellian officials were removed from office and detained pending trial. The Alliance formally censured the Tyrellian Consortium and placed sanctions on its government until reforms were implemented. Most significantly, the Council unanimously adopted the Earth Doctrine, establishing that attacks on humanitarian missions would henceforth be considered an attack on the Alliance itself, warranting a collective response. As the Earth delegation prepared to depart, High Arbiter Kelson approached Thompson privately. "Admiral, many on the Council underestimated your species. They saw your emphasis on diplomacy and humanitarian aid as signs of weakness." Thompson smiled slightly. "A common misconception, Arbiter. Humanity learned through bitter experience that war should never be the first option. But when forced upon us, particularly when we're trying to help others, we respond decisively." "Indeed," Kelson replied thoughtfully. I believe the galaxy will look at Earth quite differently now. Thompson nodded. That was never our goal, but if it prevents similar attacks in the future, I'll consider it a worthy outcome. 1 year after the Proxima crisis, Captain James Miller stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned UES Phoenix, named in honor of the vessel destroyed in the initial attack. Before him stretched the rebuilt Ardelian colony, its agricultural domes gleaming in the light of Proxima Centauri. "Beautiful sight, isn't it?" asked a familiar voice. Miller turned to find Admiral Thompson joining him at the viewport. "It is, sir. Hard to believe what it looked like when we first arrived with the relief supplies." The Admiral nodded solemnly. 80% of their crops destroyed, infrastructure failing, people starving in the streets. Now look at it. The colony had not only recovered, but was thriving. With Earth's agricultural experts working alongside Ardelian farmers, they had developed new hybrid crops resistant to both natural and engineered pathogens. The population had stabilized, and birth rates were finally exceeding deaths again. "The Council's quarterly session just concluded," Thompson informed Miller. "They've formally adopted the joint Earth-Ardelian proposal for a rapid response force. When the next humanitarian crisis occurs, the Alliance will be ready." Miller smiled. "With Earth taking the lead, I assume?" "Co-leading with the Ardelians," Thompson corrected. "They've proven themselves remarkably resilient. Their perspective will be valuable." A small ceremony was scheduled for later that day, the dedication of a memorial to those lost in the attack on the first humanitarian convoy. Miller would speak, as would representatives from the families of those who died aboard the original Phoenix. "Any word on the Tyrellian conspirators?" Miller asked. Thompson's expression darkened slightly. "Their trials concluded last month. All 3 primary orchestrators received the maximum sentence, permanent exile from Alliance space." "And the boy, Kazari?" "Rebuilding under new leadership. They've requested Earth advisors to help reform their governmental systems. President Rivera approved the mission last week." Miller shook his head in wonder. "When I joined the humanitarian fleet, I never imagined where it would lead. Earth was just the new kid in the Alliance trying to prove our worth through medical knowledge and disaster relief." "And now?" Thompson prompted. "Now, I'm not sure what we are. Not just humanitarian workers anymore, that's certain." Thompson gestured toward a group of children playing in a park visible below, human and Ardelian, youngsters together. "We're what we've always been, Captain. A species trying to build something better than what came before. Sometimes that means feeding the hungry. Sometimes it means fighting those who would prey on the vulnerable." He turned from the viewport. "The memorial service begins in an hour. We should prepare." Later, as Miller stood before the assembled crowd, humans, Ardelians, and representatives from a dozen Alliance species, he found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. 1 year ago, ships bearing food and medicine were attacked in the system, he began. Lives dedicated to saving others were callously extinguished. Earth responded as we must, first with force to stop the immediate threat, then with healing hands to fulfill our original mission. He gestured to the monument, a simple obelisk bearing the names of all who died. "This memorial stands not just as a tribute to those we lost, but as a promise to the galaxy. A promise that humanitarian aid will flow freely to those in need. A promise that those who seek to prevent such aid will face consequences." Miller looked out at the faces before him. Some solemn, some tearful, all united in this moment of remembrance. The attack on our convoy changed Earth's place in the galaxy. We came to the stars seeking friendship and cooperation. We found that, but we also found that some view compassion as weakness to be exploited. They were wrong. He placed his hand on the memorial stone. "To those who died bringing hope to strangers, your sacrifice transformed not just this colony, but the entire Alliance itself. The doctrine that bears Earth's name, the rapid response force now forming, the new protocols protecting humanitarian missions, these are your legacy." As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Thompson approached with an Ardelian elder, their tall, willowy form bowing slightly in respect. "Captain Miller," the elder said, My people have a saying, "From the darkest soil grows the brightest bloom." What happened here was terrible beyond words, but from that darkness has come a new understanding between our peoples, and indeed, throughout the alliance. Miller nodded. I believe those we lost would find comfort in that thought. As the sun set over the colony, casting long shadows across the memorial, Miller knew that humanity's journey among the stars had entered a new chapter. They had come as healers and found themselves warriors when necessary. They had faced betrayal and emerged stronger. Most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that Earth's compassion was not a weakness to be exploited, but a principle worth defending, with diplomacy when possible and overwhelming force when required. The message was clear to all who might. Consider such actions in the future. Attack those who come in peace to render aid, and you attack humanity itself. Earth would respond accordingly.